What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gravity the Beast. Welcome back to the Big Cap. No bullshit, just conversations about passions, philosophies, and perspectives.
Factory.
You already know I'm here with the co-host. Go ahead and got some homies with me.
You already know. Twine, neighborhood real nigga. Back again.
Right.
It's your boy YK. We back on Another Pod. You already know how we doing.
And Lex back at it again.
Right. So you already know we've been doing a couple different podcasts that are based on different sections of the Rollo Tomasi book, The Rational Male. Yeah. So we've been having fun doing that, and we've been digging into a lot of that. So we just listened to a portion of that just now. It was part of the communication chapter.
Right.
If you're listening to it on Audible, you put it at 1.5 times speed. It's at about 19 minutes. So we listened to about 15, 16, 17 minutes, something like that, of the book. And within that, we start getting into the idea of how men and women communicate, the differences, especially within relationships, right? Now, I just want to start off by saying, like, me personally, I've always had certain understandings of how men should communicate with women. And whenever I've been dealing with different women, be it friends or people I was looking at romantically, I've always had certain ways that I communicated with them that I felt I was supposed to, that I felt I might have learned from movies. I never got too much direct knowledge from family members or any type of influences growing up. So most of what I learned was just from media. So based off of all of those different things, I kind of saw how the way I was moving was getting me certain reactions. And I learned that I haven't been communicating the best way. I was doing things that went against what I considered to be more natural, like my first instincts. I would go against a lot of different things and say too much and do too much and not understand why I was getting the results that I was getting.
Right.
And there's so much that goes into that. But first, I want to start off with the female guest here, right? So you had a lot of different thoughts on this, and I want you to be able to voice your opinion on everything you heard before we start like getting into everything heavy real quick. So we could like go back and forth, but I want to focus on some of the things that you were thinking.
Well, one was the topic that he covered that really was just overarching and that I really agree with, that is something women don't acknowledge, is the fact that we don't want the truth. Like, or we don't want the full truth and nothing but the truth, because we can't handle it a lot of times. A lot of women do not have the hold or the control over, or the understanding, I guess, not even the control, understanding of their emotions and who they are and what is the best way to get information across to them. So they just say that they want the truth. And that's not actually what it is. And he was just making commentary on that. I'm like, you're really right about that. And if people were more willing to acknowledge that, you would find that communication wouldn't be such an overarching theme in relationships, at least presented the way that it is now. That's what he was saying. Like, you can't, like, communication is key, but not in the way that we say it is. He was like, it's not what you say, because men are really easy at just saying whatever it is. Right. And women are not good at receiving just you saying whatever it is. Like, you have to put it in a certain way to make it so that we can understand it. And that's the part that's where the disconnect is from what you, I guess, learn, in media or whatever is the previous way of thinking, I guess, that you were following as far as communication. Like, I just found that point to be like, wow, it's so simple, but it's so eye opening. And that was my main following or takeaway from it. Like, the fact that men naturally communicate one way, because when you just say communication, men naturally communicate one way and women naturally communicate / receive communication another way. And expectations are a lot to do with it as well. Like, women just expect men to be mind readers, and if you're not a mind reader, then you're somehow less of a man. And it's like, okay, that linking those two things together, it's like ridiculous. Like the fact that we can't disassociate things. Like, this has to tie in with this. And it doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, wow, that's really real. And if women were more like I said, willing to acknowledge that, and if men were more privy just to the information, cause then that would clear up a whole lot of things. That would help us move so much forward, because now you don't have to have unrealistic expectations. Now you don't have to assume or try to figure out what people mean by what. Like women like to find out what do men mean by that. Like what did he mean when he said this? So, and that was another thing that he was commenting on in the chapter, is that women have such huge imaginations. They want to like hear what you're saying and think about what you mean by what you said, and men just like to say what they mean.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's part of I guess the commentary he was making about if you want to, you know, attract certain type of women or be the kind of man that women want, then you got to be able to kind of maneuver her imagination, like use her like understand she has it, use it to your betterment, to your advantage, like understand it. So I guess hey, a lot of it is it's so funny. He was so right.
See, I want to dig more into your other thoughts too, but all right. So right now, Lil Twan, what were your thoughts on it initially? Yeah,
me,
because this was your second time hearing it. Also, you've listened to the book. Just as, this is my third time hearing it.
Hold on. It's a lot, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like the communication part of it. It shows the difference between men and women, because we communicate different. Men are more overt, where women are more covert. They try to hide what they want, as opposed to men just like, yo, just tell me what you want.
Right.
Like he made it a point where he was like, women don't want to, like he was playing on women's emotions or like their their imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So like women use their imagination to figure out they'd rather not be told how a man is.
Right.
They'd rather imagine it in their head.
Right.
Or the idealistic version.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So by confiding in or telling your woman everything, you're low-key losing attraction in that woman.
You're not living up to the expectation or the imaginative view that the woman has of you in her mind.
Yes, you gotta create that view. You gotta create the view that you have to create how she sees you,
right,
as opposed to what you actually are. Because
no.
Hold up, because
all right, go.
The picture that you paint is more relevant than what you actually are.
I would argue that the picture that you paint should be who you actually are.
I mean,
I feel like that's
definitely,
the only way for true success.
Definitely, but how she views you. Like, I feel what you're saying, bro.
But Pete, if you're talking about keeping up a facade, then you can work on the facade. Maybe you could smash. You can get you some pussy. Cool. Do what you do.
Right.
But if we're talking about long-term relationships or even long-term success with women outside of relationships, if we're just talking long-term ability to acquire casual sex, you have to be of a certain level.
Right.
You have to be of a certain status. You have to have certain things in line. So if you're more focused on appearing to be something than actually being something, you're holding yourself back. You need to actually be the thing. Now, of course, if we're talking about short-term success, a hookup, so on and so forth, well then, control the narrative. Make sure they look at you as a certain level. Make sure they, like, you could lie and say, my car is fucked up, but it's only because it's a rental. Like, I got a Lamborghini in the shop. Right now I'm staying in town at my cousin crib. This ain't my actual crib, so you already know. You get you a nice looking outfit. You could pretend and excuse here, excuse there, and get certain things you want. But it's more important to actually be that. It's more important to have that car you said you had, have that crib you said you had, not to impress women. Not for the purpose of attaining women, just so you're better off on your own, and women will naturally come to you for that. I mean, it's just that simple. But I feel like it gets messy when we get weird in that conversation when we talk about why we're doing certain things, what we're doing, where we have what at. You know what I mean?
Well,
but
one of the points that he made that I really, really liked was him trying to ask other women, what do women want?
Yeah.
And other than, he was talking about other than like their personal whatever it is, and some women don't even know that, but other than their personal, they can't tell you. I can't tell you. I would have been like, I don't know. Like, as soon as she said that, I have no idea. And I'm like, wow.
I love
Imagine
that.
a guy on the outside looking in. I have no clue.
No, I love that because honestly, I feel like that's how I've been feeling for so many years. Is like a lot of women can't tell you how they really feel and what they really want.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's up to you as the man to decide what they really want. Like,
I disagree. There.
I won't say decide. No.
It's up to you.
No, wait, hold on.
Really
Let me backtrack. It's up to you to fit the profile of what they really want. And like they decide what they really want, and that was something I wanted to touch on was how like he kind of opened my eyes to the fact that like women don't want to tell you, they don't want to tell you when
they want you to just get it.
They want you to just understand it, and it's like I've always said that like I'm not a mind reader. Like how the fuck can I understand that? But it's like. You really do got to be a mind reader. You really do.
You got to have experience.
You got to have experience. Yeah, I feel you. That's the way you got to put it. You got to have experience. You got to like understand how women react in certain situations and how you should react based off of that.
And how to communicate like effectively with a woman because
how
it's
to
different.
effectively, bro.
So Pete, this is what I think is kind of interesting, right? Mm-hmm. So women have been told a lot of the times, right?
Right.
To keep their body count low, not be sexually promiscuous, to not do a lot of these different things, right?
Right.
And a lot of it has been to maintain their value in the eyes of males. Most men, like in Fresh and Fit, they said this, and I agree with it. It's like women, or hold on, how do we put it? Women want men with a future. Men want women without a past.
Okay. Yeah.
So when we hear that, right, it goes into how much experience we gain. A man who gets multiple women is valued higher. A woman who has sex with multiple men is valued lower.
I feel like it's more with the priorities of each gender.
I agree with you there, but Pete, where I'm getting to with this, right?
No,
it's because when we talk about how we value each other, right?
Yeah.
Right now, I would say last 20 years or so, it's almost as though we're all being taught the same thing about you don't need to have, like, even though we're in the age of casual sex, I've heard stories where they're talking about how we're having less sex now than we did 20 years ago. Now, that's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other conversation, though, right? Because there are different things that go into that, right? But when we talk about it on a level of how we're attracting one another, like, on an intersexual dynamic base, relationship base, friendship base,
right?
How we're attracting one another,
right?
We are not experienced enough to attract women nowadays on average. If we're talking about just experience-wise, there are more.
I agree.
There are more male virgins than there are females.
Yeah, I agree completely,
so,
bro.
So Pete, when we get into that, right? When we see that more men are less experienced than the women, it makes sense how there are less men in successful relationships, right? It makes sense how there are more unhappy women.
Right.
And we see how these things move. But the men aren't able to get the experiences they want. They're not going to get the experiences they need in order to become more attractive to the women they're surrounded by.
Yeah.
So we get stuck in that circle right there because on a base level, it would be simple enough for guys to just, talk to this woman, talk to her, get this experience. You see this girl, she's pretty, talk to her. You might have got enough experience. You can attract her. You have a lot of unhappy women because we have a lot of unexperienced men. And then cycle perpetuates. We get into that. Men don't know how to flirt. Like when I talk about myself personally, right? And this is going to be another topic within a different podcast, but there's going to be a topic called The Fish and the Fisherman. So the whole premise is a woman can't teach men how to get women. Now, some might disagree. I don't want to get too dug into that particular topic, but the whole point is how you learn in your life. I was raised initially, first half of my life, my grandmother and my grandfather. But my grandfather was older. He didn't teach me how to throw a football, baseball. He didn't teach me how to ride a bike. He didn't teach me how to drive. He was just there. I love him, but he didn't really give me any masculine influence other than maybe a beating if I was on some bullshit. No abuse shit, but like, you know, on some genuine shit. So like I was raised primarily by women. I had my grandmother. She was there for everything else. I left my grandmother. I went with my aunt. She raised me until she passed away. And within that, it's like I was raised primarily by women. There are certain ways that I communicate that I never got no benefit from a man. I never learned how to flirt from a man telling me like, yo, this is how you talk to the girls. Never got that. So I get to a certain age where everything has been done on my own. So when I look at my success and my lack of success, all I could do is attribute it to myself and my own experience, opposed to passing down knowledge and actually making me the best I could be.
Right.
If I was raised by my mom and my father and I saw like, okay, this is how you get women from my dad, and I saw this is how you treat a woman from my mom, and this is what women like from my mom, and this is what women like from my dad. If I was able to go back and forth and see examples of successful relationships, I would have had a whole different perspective on it.
Yeah.
To where I could move forward on that and go towards success. But the way I communicate personally, I've had a lot of failures based on the lack of proper tutelage I had growing up.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of men. You know, it's a lot of people that are going through that where they don't necessarily know how to communicate. They don't necessarily know how to move. And shit just, it holds you back, like, long term.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can definitely, you hit the nail on the head there with it just being a source thing for a lot of issues you find. Like, if you don't have the role model or just the prospect, for a lot of people, it's just an idea for them in your mind, like, okay, I think it's supposed to look like this,
right?
Or it looks like this from the outside looking in. How do I get there? And it's like, well, you don't even really know what you're looking for or how to take action towards that goal, and you're trying to figure that out by yourself. It's a lot harder, and it's a lot different.
What's your thoughts, Josh, before we get deeper into the communication aspect?
I mean, I kind of agree with what she said. Like, you just gotta like look at the overall scope of the like relationship you're trying to build and like what you expect from your partner. And like, if you don't have an understanding of what you want, like, and what it is that you're like aspiring to be, and you know what I mean, like that, all that shit matters. And that's what I'm trying to say is like, all that shit really does matter. Like, what you're aspiring to be and what you want, like, that is going to affect your relationship at the end of the day. Because you need somebody who's going to be compatible with that. At the very least, compatible. At the very least. And people don't understand that. Like, they just want to make any relationship fit with their like situation.
That's
like,
real. That's real.
I mean, like, I witnessed it so many times. It's like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see somebody making a relationship compatible with them. I want to see people in incompatible relationships
where it works
like,
successfully already.
Exactly. Like, I want to see people with people who are like trying to work with them and build a successful life and actually like pass on wealth and knowledge to the next generation and build like a genuine world. You know what I mean? Like, that shit is important. Like, people don't look at that, but that shit is important. That's our job as human beings. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
That's just super important. So, like, looking at it that way, like, there's no reason why, like, I shouldn't expect a lot of you as my partner. Because we have a job to do. You feel me? Like, people don't look at it that way, but we have a job to do.
That's a fact. You've agreed to be a partner and like
so
rise up to a certain task.
Exactly. So if that is the case, we got like, I mean, I'm not gonna say we gotta, but like we like, if we're gonna raise a family, we have a job to do.
No, you gotta.
I feel you. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I do feel like you got it.
Yes.
You feel what I'm saying?
You're obligated to.
There are couples
you decide to bring a child into this world.
I'm saying there are couples who would deny to do that. I'm not gonna say that they shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, well, I will say that they shouldn't do that, but I'm not gonna say that they aren't allowed to not do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not against the rules to not do that. And I'm not going to look
to not take care of your child?
No, I'm saying to not have a child in the first.
Oh yeah, no.
Like, it's not against the.
If that's not your personal preference, you're good. If you
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not against the rules to not have a child in the first.
I'm with you.
But like, if you do have a child, like,
yep,
it's your obligation.
Yep, that's it.
Thank you. It's your obligation to take care of that child and to raise it and to do what like you're supposed to do.
Right.
Like,
raise them to be self-sufficient.
And I think people like speed past that.
Yeah.
And speed past like their obligations as human beings.
But see, even beyond that, like on a communication tip specifically.
Right.
But yeah. Yo, Twan, what's your thoughts?
Bet. So when it comes to the communication level, I feel like it's a disconnect between men and women.
Right.
Because I feel like we live in a femi-centric world.
Mm-hmm.
Women expect men to feel the same way that they do.
Right.
So it's like when men say some real shit, women might get mad. Or they might say some shit like, oh, I feel like, or I feel you, but it's just different. They expect men to look at the world the same way that they do. Like when it comes to cheating.
Okay.
Women get mad at men for cheating because they expect men to feel the same emotional connection that they would when they cheat.
Boy,
that's a whole other bag we get into. That's a whole other bag we get into.
No, that is, but you spitting though. Like, I feel you.
Let's not go too deep into that bag.
I'm not. But not bro, he's spitting, bro.
I'm talking about
he's spitting though.
Twan, for even bringing that up, that's a deep bag, bro. You get lost in the sauce.
Oh my god, yo.
But that's real shit.
Yeah, that's real shit.
It's like
that's real.
Within that,
that's real.
We could get into the topics of why men have infidelity and why women have infidelity and why is it that sexual abundance is treated differently between two genders. We could talk about that, but when it just comes straight down into it, when it comes to staying or being in a relationship with someone once you've experienced infidelity, those are two different topics based on the genders. Like if we talk about a higher value man and then he's having sex outside of his relationship, but woman's going to feel like he's cheating. Yeah. But at the same time, it can be argued that he's just exercising his options. Now, but then that also goes into the deeper topic of what type of relationship are you in? What is it that you bring towards one another? Right. How different are your levels within the relationship? It's the difference between Jay-Z getting with a girl that works at Taco Bell and he fucks a European model versus two people that work at the same bank and he fucks a secretary. It's two different things. Like how close are things to you? You make 100,000, she makes 90, or is it that she makes 100,000, you make 500,000? Right. Whose life is going to change the most? Who has less leverage in a situation? And even within that, like not to make it sound so cruel, because we could talk about leverage and how much control you have within your relationship, but it really is primarily who is the prize, quote unquote. Now, on this podcast specifically and within the manosphere in general, we talk about how things tend to work better when men are valued as the prize. Women are beautiful, women are helpful, but as a man, if you focus too much of your energy on women, you're going to fail. Whereas, flip side, as a woman, and I'm speaking as a man, but as a woman, if you focus enough of your time and energy on the right man, you will be successful.
Right.
A man can't focus on a man for success. A woman can. It's about the right man, of course, but men in general find more success focusing on themselves than men. Whereas a woman, and then we get into it. But not even on that type golden shit. But in general, like when we talk about life, when we talk about like biological hardwiring, women are going to find more happiness. Women are going to find more happiness and success following a great man, not just a man, a great man. Now, how women value a man, that goes into experience, that goes into things that you have viewed and how you value people.
Right.
If you see a man and he is a great man and you put your time and energy into him, more than likely you're going to find more success than you could have gotten on your own. That's not to say that women can't be better than men and women can't do things to the same level as men. It all depends on what it is, what we're talking about. Okay, cool. But when it comes to family dynamic, when it comes to like actual full life, there are certain things where we need each other for. Right. There are certain ways we need to speak to one another.
Right.
Like I heard this one other story, and this is actually, I feel like it really does go into this. So there's another YouTuber called Strong Successful Male. His whole page is where he does breakdowns of people's relationships experience. Right. It'll be like, yeah, my wife divorced me, or my wife asked me for an open marriage and we ended up getting divorced, or I found out my wife was like, she said to her friends that I wasn't her first choice. Like it could be a lot of these different things. Most of the time it's from men. Sometimes it's from women. Most of the time it's an infidelity case, right? So there have been cases where a woman cheats and she tells her story talking about what happened and then he breaks it down. And a lot of times it's when like a guy gets cheated on and whatever, right? But when you break these different stories down, you start to see how like, okay, well, based on what you were doing, how you were valued, how you communicated things, what you established from jump, you're going to lead to certain levels of efficiency or inefficiency. You're going to have a good relationship or a bad relationship.
Right.
So when you get to certain points in your relationship where you're like, fuck, like this isn't fun, this isn't good. Well, what did you do to get into that relationship? Start to go look into it a little bit more and be like, oh, damn, you messed up here, you messed up there. Next thing you know, you're divorced and you're broke and you're this and you're that. And it's a lot of the decisions you made. Now, you might call that woman messed up. She's a B, she's a this, she's a that. Like place derogatory term there. You know what I mean? You might feel all these different ways about women, but then when you look into what the man established in the beginning, what the woman established in the beginning, the things that they're required of one another, she might be doing a lot, but at the end of the day, it's how they communicated. And most of the time, men and women don't communicate the same way. It's so many things that go into this communication aspect that hold us back long term, where we don't see how we should voice our opinions, where we should bite our tongues, where we should press certain things. Like we focus so much on trying to keep the peace that we don't understand that like violence is peace. The bigger the war, the better the peace afterwards. The more extreme you go, the more you appreciate the lower levels. So like when we look at it that way, like the more extreme experience a guy has gone through, the easier it is for him to have a long-term relationship, and vice versa with a woman. You know what I mean? The more you are able to appreciate certain things, you might have certain like tag-alongs that you hold on to, like baggage, whatever. But it really does come down to understanding how you want to communicate and how your partner wants to communicate, and what the things are you want from your situation.
This discussion reminds me of like talking about love languages. You guys like it. One of the biggest pieces in those like books or in that, I guess, that series was about how not just you have to understand your love language as a partner, but you also have to understand how to communicate in the other person's love language. So I mean, we all know people are different and certain scenarios are different, but as you know, generally understanding the fact that men, communicate more directly, and and then women would, are more receptive, or we communicate more vaguely, or more
covertly.
Yes, this is just kind of general idea. Here you go, like piece it together for like help me. Honestly, I feel like that's another thing women won't admit, is like sometimes we really don't know, and instead of saying we don't know, we'll give you what we got and help be like, hey, maybe you can figure it out.
I feel like that's
subconsciously protecting the feminine imperative.
Yeah, I feel like that's where some of the problems come, because men might look at it like women think men are stupid, where men think women are crazy. Like, we look at it from ourselves. It's like women are more covert. Women can walk in a party and figure out just by looking who likes who fucks with who does not fuck with who. Mm-hmm. And it's just like they can match up the whole atmosphere.
That's social intelligence.
It's where like men are clueless. Men aren't really aware of body language and energy as women might be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like comes from
that place,
just being direct.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's some of the problem that women come from. Because it's like, if you look at it in a club, women aren't as approachable. It's like they put off a non-approachable energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they be in the club, mean mugging. And it's like, the only people who will approach you when you're like that are sociopaths or niggas who do not fuck with your energy.
No, I would say,
or like,
just want to use you. They
yes,
don't give a fuck if they lose or not. They just like, fuck it. If she say no, let me just see.
That's what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people who respect you will fall back. You don't want to talk right now, and they'll respect that decision.
Right.
So the only prospects that you're getting are people who do not care about how you present yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that could be the downfall for women.
See,
how approachable they are.
I'll say
when
this,
it comes
right?
to their communication.
I want to say this because you just brought up a specific story to my mind that I feel like I don't think that you're wrong. I'm just bringing up a story that goes against what you were saying. So, y'all know Tiana Taylor?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tiana Taylor, singer, dancer. She was on My Super Sweet 16, signed with Kanye, all this. And her husband, I believe, is Iman Shumpert, basketball player. Cool, right? So I remember watching a video about how they met. Now, mind you, I don't know Tiana Taylor personally. I know she was friends with my cousin. I think a couple of my cousins back in the day. Like, a couple of them went to the My Super Sweet 16 shit. So, like, from the vibe I get from her, she been on some, like, Tom girl shit. But that's mainly, like, some Harlem, you know, like, rough exterior type of deal. But then when they were talking about how they got together, I believe the story was, like, she was at a club and, like, she was in a dress, so she looking good, but, like, she, like, sitting on some table or some shit with her shoes off, like, on some, like, some arguably masculine energy, but not really. Like, you know, she still looked good, but she's kind of sitting on the table like, oh, she's uninterested with the party. Then Iman Shumpert comes up, he talks to her, he do X, Y, and Z. He ends up getting her to be attracted to him.
Right.
They get together, they're married, they have a kid, they're happy. Praise to them. I bring that up because I look at it from the sense of a woman might portray herself to be a certain way. She might give you energy to where she's trying to block certain people off, but it comes down to the man she's approached by. It's not the energy she give off, it's who's willing. Let me not even say able. It's who's willing to deal with that energy and bring out that other shit from her. I feel like the issue is that most men might bring certain things out of a woman and they don't have the endurance to maintain that. So when a woman overpowers him, the relationship goes bad. But if you are a masculine man, you're strong, you're able to provide, you make your money, you do your thing, your girl got a little attitude, but she's still feminine, you could work your relationship. She's staying her feminine because she know who you are and you remind her who you are. And she could do what she do and y'all could have y'all relationship and be good. It don't matter if she was on some tomboy shit. You met her on the basketball court. You met her doing whatever. That type of stuff don't matter. It matters if you're not confident or high enough status to overcompensate. If you can't overcompensate, you got to deal with the repercussions of it.
Don't get bitter, get better.
Exactly. Don't get bitter, get better. And that's what that comes down to. Like, when I see them, you see them in the Fade video or whatever it was with Kanye. That shit was damn near softcore porn. But you see that shit, it's like, oh, well, they got somewhat decent relationship. They doing that. Like, you see some genuine energy from that. They got a kid together. They doing whatever. She might have her energy as a tomboyish, girlish, whatever. I don't know the particular term we want to use for that. But she has that energy that came out of her prior, and it still maintains itself when you hear her speak, but you see she has that husband, and there's a dynamic that is maintained there with their two energies. You might see a guy that be like, yo, check your bitch, and da-da-da-da-da. Like, right? Cool. But to him, he might be in a certain place where it's like, what you, like, he gonna smack you for calling his girl a bitch. It's not about checking your bitch. It's about you being who you are, being the right person to fit somebody else. Right. It's not to say that the person that you get married to is the only person you could ever match to, but it's saying if you find a match, hold on. Take care of it. Nurture it. Make sure you're good. I don't believe in a true love. I believe in love that you work on. I believe that regardless of who you might have feelings for at a particular time, you're going to always have certain things that you need to do to earn that love and vice versa. And it comes down to you maintaining your role. If you feel
conditional love.
Yeah. Like there's no such thing as long-term unconditional love. That is for children and siblings. That's it. Like long-term love, if you're not a mother, father, or brother or sister, it's all based on what you provide. You give me love, I give you love. You could have a brother be on some bullshit, sister be on some bullshit. At the end of the day, no matter how much you hate them for the things they did, there's still a certain love there because that's your brother versus a romantic partner. Right. Within a romantic relationship, a person could do something and it's over for them. Like, you never forget that shit. It's over. There's no such thing as unconditional love romantically. It's always conditional. And we forget that. Or either we forget that or we create a hyperbolic mindset of what we are. Right. And then we get so caught up in, well, they're not going to do this to me. They're not going to cut me off. I'm worth this. I can keep this. And then we just hold ourselves back long term. What's your thoughts on this, Alexis, real quick? Because I do want your opinions on these.
Yeah, talking about long-term relationships, like specifically, you're not going to find that. You're right. Like, you have to understand what you bring and be willing to recognize it, and then being willing to sustain it as well. And if needs change over time, as they naturally do, be aware of it and talk about it and be open to new things and to keep going, basically. Like you said, it really is about who's going to stick around. Like,
yeah, I feel like one of the problems of marriage is it creates complacency. Complacency. Mm-hmm. Because you believe in that happily ever after, and it's just like, you got it. I don't got to do nothing. Mm-hmm. It's cheese from here. I don't got to work. I got it. I didn't fulfill my perspective. Just both.
As a man perspective, you always got to work. That's the only reason I asked that question. Right. You said I don't.
But work. It's like, if you believe in a soulmate, you done married your soulmate. It's just like, you believe in that unconditional love, so you forget why.
What you got to bring to the table.
Yes.
Okay.
Why that person became attracted to you in the first place.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the dangers.
I feel you there. Josh?
I mean, I agree with what Twan said. Like, it's just complacency. Like, don't get complacent. You got to understand, like, you're attracted to this person for a reason. And whatever that reason was, you got to maintain. It's that simple.
Hey, I feel you. It's interesting to me because when I look at communication on a base level, right? I look back at my life, especially after listening to this book. I think back to my life and how I've communicated with every woman in my life. Like, let me not say necessarily every woman, but every woman that has made a mark or impact on my life, right? And I think about friends. Maybe I tried to be romantic with them at first. It didn't work, and then we became friends. Or maybe I think about people that started off as friends, and then I got manipulated by my desires for romanticism. I look at all these different situations that I've had, and then I reflect differently. I think about it, and I'm just like, okay, now I kind of understand a little bit better, you know? Like, if a man and a woman are going to get engaged in certain types of contact, there are certain feelings that comes from that. If a man and woman have certain type of communication, there are certain reasons behind that. Mm-hmm. As we move forward, we start to see different ways that we are both impacted by how we move together. And a man can be very confused based off of what society is telling him, how he should move, why he's moving, and all these different things. You can be very confused, and you're just like, well, fuck, like, I feel like this, and I'm doing this because of this, but is it really because of this, or is it because what they're trying to tell me it is? And like, we go through all these different things, and then a lot of the time we end up failing. I mean, I feel like that is a recent thing. You know, like there was a point in time where you could just go to high school, and by the time you leave high school, you know how to be a plumber damn near. So, some of these high schools, by the time you leave high schools, you know how to be an electrician damn near. You can get a job at 18, be married by 23, have 7 kids, and be married till you die.
Have a full career.
Yeah, and culture was different, you know? Culture was different. The sexual revolution, birth control, all these things affected us differently. But when we look at it just from a nuclear family dynamic point of view, things were better at a specific point in time. If I was able to graduate high school with experience as a plumber, and I can get a job, or at least a decent job fresh out of high school, and then just work 20, 30 years, I'm 50 and retired, 55 and retired, that's fire. Like, what?
That'd be great.
I could own my crib, have a wife and children, and at 55 I'm retired. That's fire. That is less realistic nowadays. Mm-hmm. So within that, you gotta look at it. Like, men used to communicate differently with women, and then society has affected us where men tend to be weaker. Men tend to have less security. Men tend to have less experience. So we need to come up with ways to compensate this. I hope that by having these type of podcasts where we can have these different conversations, it makes people listen, reflect, and think. Just like, well, what have I done? What can I do better? Who am I influencing? How can I influence them better?
Don't get bitter, get better.
Don't get bitter, get better. At all times, don't get bitter, get better. Just focus on raising your value. I know where I'm at right now. I know what type of attention I garner right now. And is that what I want to accept? No. I want more. I want to make more money. I want to be more of a positive influence. I want to gather more resources. I want to do more and more and more and more. Like, that is my current goal. And I understand that there's going to be work that goes into that, but I don't feel no type of negativity towards it.
You know what's funny? Yeah. I feel like that's how life works.
Yeah.
My grandmama ain't the only one calling me baby.
Yeah.
The fuck? It's just like when you focus on yourself. Mm-hmm. Everything that you want, especially sexually, you get. Focus on yourself. Do you?
I agree with that.
So what's your closing thoughts on it? Starting with you. Josh, you down for this last one?
I'm hoping that, like you said, that discussions like this will bring more things to light. Just hearing, you know, I hope that women will learn how to just acknowledge how they think, because I don't feel like a lot of women reflect on what they want and who they are and why they are the way they are and just things like that. Like I said, we would much rather just like hide from ourselves or give our problems to somebody else and like want them to figure it out for us or you know, at least help me figure it out. But if, you know, women taking more accountability would open up a whole new ball field. And I don't mean necessarily changing like you know, men being aware of the way women's brains are automatically just wired will definitely help. But just women being more receptive to like wanting to actually understand something deeper and not just playing themselves. Like, don't say, tell me how you feel, and not be ready to hear what comes out of what comes out of his mouth. Like, because it might not be what you want to hear. It might not be what you like.
Accept the consequences.
Right. Exactly. And that's what I feel like a lot of us have been made not to do, and just let your emotions kind of run your life and how you move. Or at least people not warning us, like how we can be taken over by that, like, emotional thinking over just logical thinking or just hearing other perspectives. Right. Like I said, conversations like this, they help me to put things together and verbalize things. So I hope that it'll cause others to do the same, and then also be able to reflect on it and start making active change.
All right, I got one last question. This just popped in my head, and I feel like we might have mentioned it on a different podcast, but just real quick. How do you feel about mandatory paternity tests at the birth of every child?
If you're straight, like
mandatory.
This is my initial reaction. Like okay. Initial reaction was, it shouldn't matter. Like, if you want to, go ahead. Like, for me, it's like, okay, if it's, but okay, wait, oh geez.
Mandatory paternity test at the birth of every child.
It's law.
Before the father is allowed to sign the birth certificate, a paternity test is necessary.
We gotta make sure he's the father before he signs.
Yeah. Okay. So in my mind, that makes sense. Like that. If that. Yeah, because if it's not the case and he chooses to be the father, then steps can be taken in that direction. But.
Mandatory at the birth of every child, mandatory paternity test. So what's your feelings on it? Like, let's get a concise answer real quick.
I would say
yay or nay. And why?
I'm going to say no, because you're putting a lot of people. You know what? I'll say yes, because it makes sense to me. Like, because there's women who will try to trap guys. So if you're so confident, and if this is what it is, because if it's gonna be what it is, whether you like it or not. So don't try to trap people. Don't try to put them in a situation. Let's find out. Let's find out the truth, because that result is what it is, whether you know it or not.
I got a statement real quick.
Go ahead.
You know how they say women move on emotions? I would disagree. I feel like men move on emotions. Women move out of protective response on their emotions. Meaning, you tell a man the truth, he gonna take that, he gonna feel the way, he gonna grow from it. You tell a woman the truth, she gonna think about why you said what you said, opposed to absorbing what you said, and it might hit a different way. When men get emotional, they make actions to fix ever feeling like that again. Whereas I feel like women tend to
say that that's what they're doing.
Women tend to act a step ahead of the process, because it's like, men are going to process their emotions and try to better themselves. Women might try to fight the emotions. And if they process it, they can go through it similar. But they tend to fight it, I feel like. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Josh and I were just having a discussion on the phone with my boyfriend as well. Like, how women will... Oh, man, lost my train of thought. We were talking about...
Women and emotions, women.
Yes, like how women don't like to heal from things before they move on, because like they won't recognize that point. I was like, I think you just put it a better way. Like, they won't recognize or try to turn away from the emotion, try to push it away, and just try to like, okay, I'm just gonna move forward while it's that baggage is still there. You haven't sorted through it yet. Like, you haven't figured it out yet. As much as you want to figure it out or want to take the emotion and use it to push you forward or whatever. You just haven't taken the time to do that yet. Like you haven't figured it out yet, and now you're already on to the next thing, and you still have baggage from your last thing, so now you bringing that into this, whatever situation it is. Yes, I see it all the time.
I feel you there.
And it's like, are you gonna continue to keep yourself in this cycle? Like, are you gonna keep getting into relationships and getting hurt, and then just going into your next relationship saying, I don't want to get hurt, but you haven't learned anything from the last time you got hurt, so you do the same stuff over and over again? Like, it's you have to be willing to break the cycle yourself. But that all comes with just recognizing it and being accountable for it, and noticing that it might be different than what is natural to you, as a woman. But if you are willing to take the step and make the actual changes, then you'll start to see different results.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you there. Honestly, I feel like we done touched on everything at this point, because this whole pod started off talking about communication, and we've gotten into a lot of different side notes, but really it comes down to understanding that we as men are going to communicate different from women. And it's not to say that any form of communication is better than the other. It's just the understanding that we communicate differently. And if we want to have the best possible relationships we can with the opposite sex, then we need to understand how we communicate and then communicate better. Yep. And that's really it, especially as men. It's a lot of men that are bitter because they can't get women the whole time. They don't know how to communicate with women. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of women that are mad that they can't get men, but they don't communicate the right way, or they don't make the right decisions in certain places. Same with men. Like, a lot of us don't know how to interact with one another because of how our interactions have been controlled as we've been brought up.
Yes.
So it's a lot that we need to go through. It's a lot that we need to learn. It's a lot of conversations that we need to have in order for us to get to a place where we're comfortable, where we're able to maintain solid, comfortable relationships that are less dramatic, less random, less understandable. And as we continue to move forward, we can get better and better.
Absolutely. I'm seeing it already.
Honestly, I feel like it's nothing wrong with either gender's communication style, but between each gender, we have to understand each other.
Yeah, it's how we understand one another's communications.
Men are more overt, where women are more covert, and understanding that will put you on another level.
Yes,
or a better level than most people are.
Mm-hmm. How deep is your understanding of how the other sex communicates?
Right.
Facts.
How the other gender communicates.
Right.
Fact.
Like, how are you paying attention? And if so, are you really learning and growing from the experiences that you had? Because women will go out and get a lot of experiences. Like, generally, they can get the experience and still just be lost on that piece because they have
not understanding the value of that experience.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Value. But yeah, this is another good one. You already know what it is.
Absolutely.
It's your boy Gravity the Beast. It's the Big Cap. No bullshit.
No bullshit.
Just conversations about passions, philosophies, and perspective. So we're going to be back at you again. Deuces.
Peace.
Right.